This is Dom Genova, host of the No Nonsense Roundtable, heard every Saturday on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt radio station, News Radio M 1180. The show is about people you know and want to know more about, and people you don't know but should know. After the show is aired, we make a YouTube out of it. It also exists as an iHeart podcast. Please look at the YouTube, like, and share. We'll make more.
It's time for the No Nonsense Roundtable. Insights to capture your imagination from people you know and people you'd like to know about. Each week, a different guest from a different walk of life. Now, here is the host of the No Nonsense Roundtable, Dom Genova.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. Every Saturday here on Rochester's 50,000-watt blowtorch of a radio station, WHAM 1180. Now, this is the No Nonsense Roundtable, and I have a no nonsense guest for you today. And the show is people you know that you want to know more about, and people you may not know and you should know. And I think this gentleman fits both categories. His name is Grady Judd. Grady Judd is they call him the no nonsense sheriff of Polk County, Florida. So welcome to the No Nonsense Show, No Nonsense Sheriff.
Dom, it's my honor to be with you today and to talk about whatever's on your mind.
Well, anybody that doesn't know Sheriff Judd, he has a tremendous internet presence. He has his YouTubes have like millions of views, common sense sheriffing, and Polk County is a pretty big place. It's not a small town, but he does community policing in a very common sense sort of way. So let's start a little bit about you, just a short form. You, I heard you were interested in being in law enforcement for a very, very young age, and then when you finally started out as what, a dispatcher?
Sure, Dom, I wanted to be in law enforcement from the time I was, 3, 4, 5 years old, as long as I can remember. And at 18 years of age, the sheriff at the time, Monroe Brannon, hired me as a dispatcher right out of high school. And I've been there ever since, my entire adult life. I went to college nights and weekends at a very prestigious Rollins College here in Winter Park, Florida, and married my bride in that same year. My first bride, and she's my current bride. She was my first one. And yeah, life's been wonderful.
Now, the rumor is that when you finally became a sheriff, you couldn't buy your own gun or buy your own ammunition. You were so young. Is that something that's true?
Yeah, they had changed the law, if you remember, back in the day, from 21 to 18 years of age as an adult. And at 19, you could go into law enforcement. Well, back in the day, law enforcement agencies didn't provide your firearm, at least in this part of the world. So you had to buy your own. Well, I'm 19. Federal firearms law required you to be 21 to buy a handgun. So I had to send my dad to buy the ammunition and my firearms so that I could police. It was a lot different then.
Oh, my God. That's just an amazing story. So you've been in community policing for a long time. You believe in developing relationships with people in your community, but also you seem to be, if I was to describe what you are, you're a fellow who is into this consequences of your own behavior sort of thing. I mean, we talk about the root causes of this and the root causes of that. I mean, you're the type of guy that if you do something bad, we put you away. Is that pretty much accurate?
Yeah, Dom, that's correct. You're responsible for your choices in life. Some people want to be in denial. Some people want to blame other people. Well, that's their problem. They make choices, and if they make bad choices, then there has to be responsibility and accountability. This is not complex. We're not creating rockets here. We're just trying to behave, and if you don't behave and you violate the law, we're going to put you in jail.
Well, you have more quotes than Yogi Berra, for Christ's sakes. I mean, really, it is amazing the way that you communicate. I mean, if somebody's shooting at you, your response is,
"We'll shoot back at you a lot, guaranteed."
So, I guess that kind of takes care of the basis for setting you up as as a law enforcement guy with common sense, and you can't get away from the world that we have right now, and you're looking at the things that have happened in the past year and a half or whatever, and of course we're very close to what happened in Texas just recently, and I know you gave a news conference, which I saw on YouTube. I think it was absolutely outstanding. I think everybody should watch that. But we have a radio station here. We have 15,000 people listening to us. So why don't you reprise what your take is on what happened in Uvalde?
Well, first and foremost, it broke my heart. It crushed me to think that law enforcement officers stood outside that door and didn't go in. There was a lot of failures that day. First and foremost, for whatever reason, either the door wasn't locked, or the door was propped open, or the door was left open, or the door fell to shut. But this guy walked into that school full of elementary school students, children, just children, and massacred them without being stopped at all. Well, as I'm understanding now, if the information is correct, that the school resource officers they were all over at the high school for graduation and left the elementary school with no one there. So that's the way we used to do stuff a long time ago. And at the end of the day, those officers should have rushed in immediately, not waited to muster up, not waited on SWAT team. If they didn't have the equipment and the technology at the time, they should have run in with whatever firearms they had and killed that guy shooting children. They should have shot him graveyard dead quicker than hiccup, but nobody did. And as a result, we had a lot of children die. But the reality is, if you look at the data, and we studied all these active shooters, the active shooter operates between 0 and 5 minutes, and it's over. The police response, once you dial 911, is on average plus 5 minutes. Just look at the time. When seconds matter, minutes don't make any difference. And when you're dialing 911 about an active shooter, he's already there actively shooting. It's too late. You have to have well-trained people, well-disciplined on the campus in advance, so that if someone comes onto the campus with firearms and attempts to hurt children, you can shoot them. You need to be able to shoot them a lot. You need to be able to shoot them so much you can read the New York Times through them. If you don't, children die.
And one of the things you said in your press conference was the value of training, right?
Exactly. We have the ability here to have looked at Columbine, to look at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. I'm on that commission. We took a deep dive into that, to look at Sandy Hook. And ultimately, here's what it comes down to. If you remember way back in the day, maybe 15 or 20 years ago, there was a small one-room schoolhouse, an Amish schoolhouse. Now, someone came into that one-room wooden Amish schoolhouse and shot up children. If you're not safe there in the country with the Amish, you're not safe any place in this nation. So the probabilities of you ever being involved in and a victim of an active shooter are very, very, very remote. But statistics don't matter if it's you, or more importantly, if it's your children. So we have to be prepared. And you have to train and train and train and train. Then you have to have checks and balances in place to make sure you're training the right way, doing the right things.
Well, it is an unfortunate situation, and you're making some wonderful points. We're about to head into a break, and we're going to see everybody on Sense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, here with a nationally known sheriff, Grady Judd, from Polk County, Florida. Polk County is not a small place. I mean, how many people live in Polk County, Grady?
Yeah, Dom, our county is about 2,000 square miles, and we have more than 750,000 people that are here. And in fact, 58,000 have moved here in just the last 2 years from places like New York, New Jersey, California, and that sort of thing.
I have a friend of mine who moved into your area, and one of the reasons was you. Real estate agents have to love you. I mean, not only is the tax thing in Florida, but it's also the safety thing.
Well, absolutely. And you know what I coach here when I go around to the neighborhood meetings and the retirement meetings and meet the new people. I said, look, we welcome you here with open arms. We're glad that you're here. But if you came here for warm weather in the winter, we have it. If you came here for a low crime rate, we have it. If you came here for low taxes, we have it. But listen, if you come here and vote the same way the majority of the people voted from where you came from, you'll still have warm weather in the winter. But you won't have low taxes and low crime, because every one of the areas across this nation that have a high crime rate can look directly at their mayors, their city commissioners, their county commissioners, their legislators in the Senate or the House. Those rules are and the governors. Those rules are created that's allowing the criminals to run wild on top of everybody and steal and shoot and stab and murder. Well, how's that working for y'all? Our crime's at a 50-year low in my county, and it's not safe to walk the streets. And you're creating that environment by the people you put in office.
Right. So ultimately, the consequences of your own behavior is the consequences of the voters' behavior. You're saying it rests on our shoulders who are pulling that lever in November.
Well, it absolutely does. When you look at the people who you vote for, you know, they're polished and they tell you a good story, but don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. And at the end of the day, and I say this in all honesty, the policies or practices, or as you may understand them as laws, that are in place that allow this crime to occur are because of the people you put in public office. Think about it. New York has no jail bail. Well, how does that work? If you arrest someone and they are not held responsible or accountable and they get right back out, my experience tells you the majority of them don't show up, and they're certainly not concerned with whether or not they commit more crime because nobody's held them accountable. Way back in the day in this county, we had an overpopulated jail. Now I'm taking you back into the 70s. So they set up a no bail system here where if you put one guy in the county jail, then you had to look to see, well, is this guy worse than the others in the jail? Then you had to let someone out. So at the end of the day, we had people that we were booking into jail. They take their fingerprint, they take their photograph, fill out the paperwork, and release them without posting bail. You know what they were doing? They were stealing a car to drive back to wherever we arrested them from. Did you hear me? It doesn't work. Did you notice that your crime rate went up? Did you notice that your violent crime rate went up when you have no bail jail? Now, some of your elected officials that put that in place thought it was a great job at the time, but you're the one being victimized. Whether it's shot, whether they're stealing your car, stealing your property, breaking into your home, robbing you, you've got to make decisions, and the decisions you make with how you vote is going to determine what kind of environment you live in, guaranteed.
Well, we were talking before the show, and we were talking about the dumb criminal story that you had about somebody from New York that came down and insulted one of your officers and thought that you were just going to let him go because in New York he wouldn't be held. Is that true? Right?
Oh yes, we had a domestic event in a very posh, upscale, gated community. So we were there dealing with this one person that had called 911, and we had two of our deputies there when all of a sudden the I call it the co-combatant arrived and wanted to know what we were doing. We said, well, we're checking out this. And he started to butt in. We said, wait a minute, sir. If you'll wait just a minute, we'll talk to you. But we need to get the story about what happened here. Well, he shoved our deputy in the chest, reached up and poked him in the chest and told our deputy to get out of the way. Well, we immediately grabbed him and introduced him to the pavement and handcuffed him and put him in a patrol car. So we finished our investigation, and the deputy got into the car and he said, where are you taking me? And we said, to jail. He said, whoa, wait a minute. I'm from New York City. If something like this happens there, they give us a notice and we just come to court later on. And the deputy looked at him and said, sir, I don't know if you've looked around, but we're not in New York City. We're in Polk County, Florida, and you don't lay your hands on a law enforcement officer here without going to jail every time. That's a guarantee.
And in Polk County, people have guns, and you like the fact that people have guns.
Well, sure I do, because there's nothing better than a good person with a gun, because the only thing that stops a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun. And if good people have guns, bad people are less likely to use their gun. You see, bad guys are, but for the most part, cowards. It's easy for them to pull out a gun and threaten you because they've got a gun and you don't. So I encourage the people of this county, if you're comfortable with guns, if you care enough to learn how to handle them safely and train with them, I like for you to have a gun. I want you to load the gun. I want you to keep it in your car or in your home to protect yourself and other people. And if someone attacks you, and I don't mean says something ugly to you, but I mean threatens you, then it's very important that you protect yourself. And you can protect yourself. We have great stand your ground laws and castle doctrine laws. You don't have to allow someone to threaten to kill you and to take overt actions to do that. So I tell everybody, get a gun, learn how to shoot, because good guys with guns stop bad guys with guns every time.
And I have to paraphrase it once. Somebody asked you once, why did you shoot the suspect 62 times? And you said, because we ran out of bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah, a perfect sense. If somebody's shooting at you and you're in law enforcement, I mean, they should get the wet floor back. There's no question about it. Well, about ready to head into the bottom of the hour break, and we'll see you right after these messages. Well, welcome back to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host every Saturday, 10 to 11, right here on News Radio M 1180. And I'd like to remind everybody, all past shows are on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com, or you can get them nationally as iHeart Podcasts, wherever you get your iHeart Podcasts. And the bottom of the hour, I like to shout out to the Bob Johnson Auto Group, who sponsors this show, bought my dealerships from me when I was a car dealer. Great people to deal with. Get a car, get a truck, or get something fixed. Wonderful people, nice to you, give you good value. And this is like a retail thing that we do here, Grady. We have Grady Judd, the national, let's see here, MCSA Sheriff of the Year. He's a sheriff in Polk County, Florida. And people are moving to Florida for a number of different reasons, retirement, or to have some place where it has no income tax, or to have a really safe community at in the Tampa area, right?
That's right. And crime here is at a 50-year low. It's safe to walk the streets, to let your children play in the front yard. You know, it's that way because of the people we put in public office.
Mm-hmm.
It's that way because we respect each other. Oh, sure, we have a few people that violate the law. You know, they're slow learners. But eventually they figure out that if you do the crime, you're going to do the time, because we're going to lock you up before quick.
Well, we're starting to see some people that are volunteering to run for office who had no desire to run for office before. Here in Rochester, we have Laurent Singletary, who's running for Congress. He was the police chief of the Rochester Police Force, and we have Jim Van Rutterode, who was a police chief in Gates, New York, and he was chairman of the Monroe County Police Chiefs Association. And these fellas didn't have this in their sights when they were 10 years old, like you had the desire to be in law enforcement when you're 10 years old. That's what they wanted to do, but they never wanted to run for office. But they're running for office nonetheless because, well, people are coming out and they're trying to get more people involved in the decision process that have some experience in it, Grady.
Well, let's face it, that if we're going to have a safer community than we currently have, we have to make sure we have the right people in office. Now, what happens is when people are in public office, they obfuscate and blame it on somebody else, and it's somebody else's fault. But the reality, our elected officials, both at the federal level and the state level and the local level, determine the policy, the practices, the rules, and the laws that either create an environment for a safe community or create an environment for criminals to thrive. Now, I hear people say, well, we cannot lock up everybody. We can't lock up everybody and stop this. Well, what happens if you have an environment that encourages theft and stealing? Then the guy who normally would be a thief is going to continue to be a thief. But all of a sudden, all of his buddies and partners that normally wouldn't commit crime because they don't want to go to jail like he did or be arrested or be hassled by the criminal justice system, when they see that nothing's happening to him, then they join in and commit crime. That's how crime increases. So if you tighten down, you take your opportunist out. You never take your hardcore criminal out because they don't care whether they go to jail or not. But you take your opportunist out. And that's what you have when you create a forgiving environment where people are not held accountable and responsible for their conduct. So if you have a high crime rate in your community, you're not happy with that. Now, I'm not talking about having zero crime. There's always going to be some crime. But if it's not going well and your crime's high and people aren't safe and don't feel safe, elect somebody else to public office.
Right, and some people are just downright evil. I mean, there's no excuse for it. I mean, you can talk about people's environment, what they grew up in and whatever, but some people are evil. I mean, this fella in Texas shooting up the kids in Sandy Hook, I mean, this is just evil. I don't care what. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do with somebody like that.
Well, changing the law is not going to affect him at all because he's not going to obey the law. He never was, never is going to obey the law. Those that are evil and that kind of mean, it doesn't make any difference. But what I'm talking about is your average opportunist. Mm-hmm. If you lower the bar and make it easier to commit crime and there's no responsibility and accountability, well, why shouldn't they go in and steal and take what they want? But people that are that kind of evil, you have to have the systems and processes in place in advance to find them. We never want to neutralize an active shooter when they arrive at the campus or at the theater or at the place of business. That's the last place that we want to engage them. We want to find them long before they show up where they want to shoot. And we can only do that if people see something, say something, and we have an opportunity to intervene, and then we have the systems and processes to intervene. Having armed people on campuses or in businesses is only your last best hope to survive when all the other systems you should have in place fail. And no system is going to 100% guarantee that active shooters stop or that crime stops. It just reduces the probabilities for that conduct to occur when we all work together and look out for each other.
Do you have some school systems that seem to be resisting the training that you think is required for these active shooter things?
Yes, there's always some. In the state of Florida, we passed a law that mandates that you have at least one armed guardian, police officer, or deputy on every campus, public school campus or charter school campus in the state of Florida. Some states, or most states, don't require that now. Well, listen, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same old thing over and over and expecting different results.
Right. And one of the things that you said during your press conference was the importance of the training, but the training's got to be over and over and over again. And the other thing is that somebody has to understand that when a child is involved, I mean, the child's life is worth a lot more than anybody responding. People should be on the guy like as fast as they can, and hell be damned with their own safety, right? I mean, isn't that really what it's about?
No, that's exactly right. I am angry beyond words. I mean, there aren't words to share my frustration with their failure to act and save those children's lives. And the same thing with that law enforcement officer in Parkland and some of the backups there. They either weren't trained appropriately or ignored all of that. And I'm angry. I'm very angry. We had an active shooter here Friday night in a mobile home park. And our deputies received a 911 call that there was an active shooter in the mobile home park, and they raced in and shot and killed the guy. We didn't choose to shoot and kill him. He chose for us to shoot and kill him. Mm-hmm. But that was his choice. But when you tell your wife, I'm reloading the gun so I can kill all the deputies when they arrive, and you've already shot out through the neighborhood and shot into your house and threatened to kill everybody, well, what do you think's going to happen? So at the end of the day, you've got to train your people and hold them to the highest expectations. Last Friday night, our deputy's job was to go there and protect the people of that mobile home community and to protect the shooter's wife. And we did that. And the shooter caused us to take that action. We didn't want to do it, but we're not going to let him shoot randomly throughout the community and hurt someone.
And from what I can see in your press conferences too, is you're not a tough guy. I mean, you're not a gun waving radical. You were just a practical guy. You're just like Andy Griffith with a gun, with actually holstering a gun. I mean, the community thing seems to be right in your wheelhouse.
I love the community, and I do everything I can to keep them safe and to interact with them. This is just common sense. Just common sense. When somebody's going to hurt you with a gun or a machete or a knife, mm-hmm. you have the right and expectation to protect yourself, and you hire us to protect you. That's what we're supposed to do. And if we don't do it, they ought to fire every one of those guys in Texas mm-hmm. that were responsible for not going in.
Well, Grady, we're about ready to get to another break, and there's a question I want to ask you on the way back. Welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. We're talking to Grady Judd, MCSA Sheriff of the Year. It's a national award. The Sandra Hutchins Sheriff of the Year. Explain a little bit more about this, Grady.
Yeah, the Major County Sheriffs Association of America is made up of the largest sheriff's offices in the nation. I was the vice president there when Sandra Hutchins, who was a sheriff in Orange County, California, was the president. So I was her vice president. And then the next 2 years, I was president. Sandra, who was just a tremendous lady and a tremendous law enforcement officer, died from cancer. Uh-huh. So we created the Law Enforcement Officer of the Year Award, or the Sheriff of the Year Award. And I was honored when the body voted for me to be the Major County Sheriff's Association Sheriff of the Year. And it's humbling anytime that people will allow you to be in law enforcement and to certainly be their sheriff. But when your colleagues nominate and elect you to be the Sheriff of the Year, and the very first one, that's pretty special. So I'm grateful in so many ways. So it's pretty neat.
That is neat. Well, one of the things about you is you have these tremendous communication skills. I'm not blowing smoke at you. I mean, there are a couple of people that I've known in my life or seen in my life that have that. And Ronald Reagan had that ability. I think Bill Clinton had that ability of communicating. Lee Iacocca, you do, but you take it to the next level with your YouTubes. I mean, I see some of your YouTubes. You have like 1 million views and stuff. I mean, how do you do this? I mean, how many people you have working on your social networking?
Believe it or not, I have 2 public information officers, my director of communications, and 1 additional person that works on social media. This last weekend alone, I did 3 million views on TikTok. So, and I'm humbled by that. But it's so refreshing just to speak the truth to people.
Right.
I watch these politicians get up there and BS people on television or on, any communication. And I'm thinking, look, the average person in the community knows you're full of stuff. I say stuff on the radio.
Yeah,
I tell them the truth. Just tell them the truth. They can accept it. And then they can make a value judgment of whether they like it or they don't like it. Look, it's working for me. I am blessed. I'm honored. I thank the good Lord. I'm in my 5th term as sheriff. They don't throw me out. And the thing that I hear over and over is, Sheriff, we don't always agree with you, but we like that we know where you stand and you tell us the truth and you look out for our best interest. Well, that's more than fair, because I don't even agree with me all the time. The decisions I make are in the best interest of 750,000 people. There's some things I would do different if it was about me, but this is not about me. Unfortunately, for most politicians, it is about them as opposed to being about the community. So I wake up every day seeing how I can do what's in the best interest of the community and keep them safe. And I talk straight. If we mess it up, I apologize. We're human beings. People get it. But, that what I call, mush mouth, stuff that people talk, people understand that those representatives are talking crap.
Well, it's true. It's consequences of your own behavior. It's just saying what not everybody's going to like you no matter no matter what you do. You might as well straight up. I had a whole career as your no nonsense car dealer, and the communication using a little bit of humor to get your point across is very valuable in what you do. And talk about a little bit of humor. Tell me one of your stupid criminal stories.
Yeah, I've got so many crazy criminal stories. How about this one? We stopped this guy, right, for weaving on the roadway. And we asked to see his driver's license, and he was very eager to pull it out and show it to us. Are you ready for this? It's got to be true, because you can't make this stuff up. He had methamphetamine on his driver's license that he handed to us. Did you hear what I said? He had methamphetamine on his driver's license. And we said, hey, dude, how did this get here? He said, well, I was using it to cut my meth. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. Before social media, I used to think about 10% of the world was nuts. And now I'm not sure, but it's a whole lot more than 10%.
It sounds like we went to school together, because I have my 7% rule. I used to tell the people that my employees at the dealership, 7% of the people in the world are either crazy or mean, and you can't do very much about that. You just got to put them in one barrel and forget about them, because there's nothing you can do about them.
Exactly. But, most people are really cool.
Yes, exactly right.
And I call it the common sense rule. Most people have common sense. We just don't allow them to use it often enough.
Yeah, or we won't say it out loud. I mean, and that's the thing about your brand is that you say what you mean, and you mean what you say, and you say it out loud, and you say it in such a way that you listen to the YouTubes and the social networking that you do, and it just puts a smile to your face because it all makes sense. And I tell you, we're about ready to end the show. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but it's been delightful talking to you. I'd like to take a trip down and see you one of these days, maybe in the middle of the winter when it's like 6 degrees below zero here in Rochester. But it's been a delight talking to you, and I wish you the best. I'd love to do another show with you some other time. Maybe we can do just stupid criminal stories. You'd probably have enough for the whole hour.
I really would. And, for everyone who doesn't understand that, look, if you mess up in Polk County, we're going to send you home on probation, okay? And if you do mess up big time, I'm going to put you on the evening news. I'm going to run through you like a dose of salt through a widow woman.
Well, Grady, it's been delightful having you on the show. Thank you ever so much again for spending time with us. And everybody, see you next week, 10 to 11, right here on News Radio Wham.
Well, thanks for watching this YouTube. If you liked it, please like and share.